what got you started at Salesforce. Hey, welcome to the Wonsulting Life in a Day series panel. We're very excited through this series to get you an inside scoop of how a life in a day works. Being in different roles, having a different background always influences the way you look at challenges, you find solutions. So we're very excited today to have Mohammed, who's been with us in the year in the past. He's been in our breaking into Salesforce series. So if you've missed that, you can always go to our playlist and watch that video as well. And we love to get into it, Mohammed. Like we love to hear a bit about your background, a bit about your story, and what sort of got you started at Salesforce.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Alvin. And I know you're based in Canada, but to all the viewers here in the US, early happy Thanksgiving to you all. Uh, so yeah, a little bit about myself. I am from the Seattle, Washington area. Grew up both in the East Coast as well as the West Coast. East Coast over in Boston, and then moved to the Seattle area when I was around in middle school. And being in the Seattle area, surrounded by tech companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and then having a big presence of like Facebook and Google, I've always had an interest in like the tech space, and I always wanted to, I like my dream was to become like a software engineer at one of the big tech companies. And I took a couple of computer science classes, and I liked it, but I didn't like it as much as I thought I would. And I learned about a program at the University of Washington, which was the university that I wanted to go to, and I ended up going to, which was called informatics. So after I graduated from high school, I went to community college for 2 years, and I worked my way to get accepted into the University of Washington, but also into the informatics program. And informatics was the perfect major for me just because I wanted to work with people and technology. And that's really what informatics focuses on, is working with people, working with technology, but with a really big emphasis on information, because we're living in the age of data, the age of information and whatnot. So informatics is a really, really good fit for me. I took a lot of classes within like the UX field, so UX design and research, as well as data science, data analytics, databases and whatnot. And by taking both of those together, and finding a role where I could interact with customers, work with customers, build out solutions for customers, I thought that product management was going to be the way that I could find that for me. But I did a couple of internships in product management, one at a company called Smartsheet, and then another one at Starbucks. Both I got to work on the mobile side of things, and it was really, really fun, building out the products, the features from start to finish. But there was still something that I wasn't really finding. I wasn't really getting much of that, end user feedback, end user interaction. I knew that a lot of the times if you were a user researcher, you would be able to get that. But, a user researcher role a lot of the times requires a master's degree or a PhD. So I didn't really know what role I could get doing that. So then after graduation, I ended up at Amazon, where I worked as a hybrid business analyst and program manager. There I was interacting with customers a little bit, but it was on the B2B side, which I still enjoyed to do. But really, I wanted to find a role where I could interact with customers more, but still be technically savvy. And I stumbled upon a program at Salesforce called the Success Graduate Program. And it's a 1 year long program for new grads and recent grads. And there, they teach you how to become a solution engineer. And then my role specifically got switched from platform solution engineer to associate technical architect or technical architect, but it's still under the solution engineering role. And overall, other companies may call it solution architect or sales engineer, but I really, really like that role because it allows you to work directly with customers who are using your products, who are buying your products, and you get to work with those customers to find out what their problems are and then create solutions that will really help them and enable them. So that's how I found out about the role. I've been here for about 9 or 10 months now, and I've loved every single second of being here at Salesforce.
Love
in
that.
this role specifically.
Thank you so much for sharing, Mohammed. That's
Yeah, yeah,
wonderful to
of
hear
course.
of your journey of going through different routes and learning of different programs and finally finding something that worked for you best. I was also very curious to learn more about your student mentorship position that you're having with mentoring Muslims. There's something that you're doing to give
Hmm.
back and help other underdogs as well. We'd love to hear a bit about that. But for those who are watching and those who are joining us live, please give us some hashtag Muhammad's in the chat. Show us some support for joining us so late in the evening today to share with us. So yeah, Mohammed, if you can share with us a bit about that initiative that you're a part of, that you're giving back through.
Hmm. Yeah, so I personally have been a mentee. So I've had someone who mentor me, and that was through college. I was a part of a group, a club on campus called Husky Tech. My university was the Washington Huskies. So we created this club called Husky Tech, and there we created a mentorship program, which was the first at the university, and I benefited a lot. Not just organizing it, but then also myself being a mentee with industry professionals. And when I was being a mentee, I was like, this is something that everyone needs to take advantage of in their life, regardless if you're an intern, you're a new grad, you're experienced. You always want to have a mentor in your life to help you with your career or whatever it may be. And I was on Instagram scrolling around, and I saw a couple of my friends had shared on their stories about an organization called Mentoring Muslims. And when I saw that, I saw that they were accepting applications for mentors, and they didn't really care about what your experience was and whatnot. And I decided to go ahead and apply for the program, and I've been doing it for the past few months now. I believe it started back in June, but I've just been working with people in the Muslim community in North America, and helping them with applying for internships, with interviews, whatever it may be. Just kind of sharing my experiences through the job hunting or the internship hunting process, and trying to help them as best as I can.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing, Mohammed. And that's wonderful that you give back. It takes great courage to win, but it takes a lot more courage to make time to help others win as well. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, you mentioned a lot about, loving being in the role that you're in with Salesforce. So we'd love to learn more about your day to days. What does it include, and what keeps you motivated, especially with everything being remote. I'm sure it's a
Mhm.
lot different than what it would have been in, being in the office. So how does that change things as well, and what does it include usually?
Yeah. So my day to days really, really vary, especially in this role. With COVID happening, when COVID hit, I was actually still in the training phase um, of the program that I'm in. So it was more of a classroom environment. And that became really, really tricky just because I'm sure, a lot of the university students in here can relate. It's a lot harder to focus when you're sitting at home on your laptop versus being in the classroom where you can of course interact with people in person. So now that I'm out of training, that's still definitely is one of the hardships that we've been facing. But you just kind of have to. With me, I just try to adapt to it as best as I can. But as far as the day to day goes, like I said, it can really, really vary. So in the role that I'm in, since it is customer facing, it can vary from getting on a customer calls and doing various things, whether that's answering questions for customers, doing things like architecture reviews. So seeing all of the systems that they use at a holistic level and seeing how Salesforce can play in and really help them, improve their sales processes, customer service processes, marketing processes, whatever that may be. One-on-one meetings with my manager or other colleagues, attending workshops. In my role, we work really closely with product managers because the product managers build out the products that we at the end have to go out and sell. So uh, you know, going into workshops or keynote meetings with them. So it can really vary. If we don't have any customer meetings or any meetings in general, it's a lot of just learning about some of the products that we have to go ahead and sell. Salesforce has a ton of products that are out there, and since I'm on the Salesforce platform, which is the underlying layer of Salesforce, where everything's kind of built on top of, there's a lot of things that we have to learn. So a lot of using something that we have at Salesforce called Trailhead, which is an online learning module. Doing a lot of Trailhead modules. Studying for certifications. That's something that they encourage a lot at Salesforce, is to prep for those certifications. So yeah, that's kind of what it looks like day to day. It can vary.
That's really really interesting. I appreciate you sharing, about the day to day and how it's so different and dynamic. Is that something that you enjoy, it being dynamic, or is that something that you've had to get used to?
Um, in the beginning, it was something that I had to get used to, because in my
Mm.
previous role at Amazon, it was very just, same thing every single day, looking at reports, working with raw data, analyzing it, building out reports, whatnot. So that's what I was used to. And when I was at Salesforce, it kind of was a shock, like, oh, like I have to like find things to do, something different every single day. But now I actually like it, because, every day is a new challenge that I have to go out and tackle. So I really, really like it now.
That's fun. That sounds really interesting. Appreciate you sharing. For those watching, if you're enjoying it as well, don't forget to hit that thumbs up, like button, and also let us know if you have any questions for Mohammed as well. If you're applying to Salesforce, if you have any questions about what the onboarding process might be or the interview process might be, we'd love to ask Mohammed as well. So use the hashtag question and let us know if you have any questions as well. The next question that I had for you, Mohammed, is again, with things being remote and you having so many different things to do in a day, what are some of the challenges you may face being in your role at Salesforce?
Yeah, so one of the biggest challenges I'd say is definitely just trying to be able to focus again. So prior to everything being remote, the expectation was, with a lot of these customer calls, some of them would still be remote, either through Zoom, Google Meets, whatever it may be. But a lot of the times it was also meeting customers in person, and engaging with them in person. And of course, when you do that, a lot of the times, your attention has to be a lot more, focused on the customer and whatnot. But with everything being virtual, it's a lot harder to pay attention, whether that's in customer meetings or in meetings with teams and whatnot. So that definitely has become a bit more of a challenge. And what I try to do, especially if I'm speaking with a customer or and whatnot, is I try to make it more interactive. So checking in with the customer, or checking in with someone while I'm presenting something, just to make sure that I'm more engaged, they're engaged, and whatnot. Um, Another challenge is just being able to, I guess, say that I don't know something. Um, it's a lot more. I guess that kind of ties in with the previous part of not paying attention. Being able to say I don't know something is also another challenge. Um, because a lot of the times in previous roles, or even in school, um, it's not always okay to say that you don't know something. Sometimes you kind of have to like BS your way to give some sort of answer. Um, but yeah, that's definitely been a big challenge. But luckily, in this role that I'm in right now, it's actually good to say that you don't know something, and that kind of ties in with building trust with the customer. They'd rather have you be honest rather than try to make something up. So that's one of the biggest challenges I've actually faced, not only through quarantine, but just in this role in general, is to say I don't know something. But that's something that also brings value, not only with your customers, but also with the teammates around you.
That's very interesting, Mo. Thank you so much for sharing. I think that's really true. I think when you're in most situations, saying that you don't know something never really is a benefit.
Hmm.
It usually makes you look bad or underprepared. But I think that's wonderful that that's something that's encouraged at Salesforce, and you get a chance to learn more. Also, really curious to know, Mohammed, with you saying that, that's maybe one of the ways that they learn that you're open to learning and open to understanding things. What are some of the other ways through which they're usually, monitoring your performance or letting you know that you're doing well? Are there any other indicators that you should know being in your role?
Um, Really, it is just that, just being as honest as possible. When you're either in a sales role or a sales engineering role, really the honesty is the biggest part, because there are ways that they can track your performance, with how many certifications you have. Salesforce is really big on certifications, the admin certification, the developer certification. You could literally get every single certification that's out there for Salesforce, for AWS, for Azure, for Google Cloud. But at the end of the day, someone's going to go out and ask you a question, and you probably may not know either the answer to that or fully know the answer to that. So really being able to be honest with your customers, with your colleagues, at the end of the day, builds trust, amongst others. So yeah, I'd just say, yeah, being honest and being upfront is probably one of the biggest lessons and one of the biggest values that I've gotten.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, for those watching, if you're finding this insightful, give us some hashtag insightful for Mohammed to let him know and show him some love as well. And yeah, keep sending those questions as well. Hashtag question at the end of the chat. We'll also open it up for some audience questions as well. So another question that I have, is a question that a lot of viewers may have as well. Is if you're when someone new that's wanting to get into the role, what's a good place to start at? What are some of the key lessons that maybe you've learned being at Salesforce, getting through the process that's helpful to stand out and, be considered?
Hmm. So the first one is just familiarity with what Salesforce actually is and what Salesforce actually does. So Salesforce kind of pioneered the CRM product, CRM meaning customer relationship management. A lot of people know what like Salesforce the company. They have Salesforce Tower in San Francisco, which is the tallest building over there. And they know about it, maybe through LinkedIn, but knowing what Salesforce actually is and what Salesforce actually does can make you stand out a lot, especially if you're, applying for an internship or a new grad role, where you don't really get exposed to what a CRM is, when you're in university. So that's the first one, is being familiar with what Salesforce actually does. The second one that I would say is, of course, prep for your interview, for the role that you're in. Go out and reach out to someone who's in that role, and of course, ask for a referral. But when you do that, also, ask, what do you do in your role? What are some tips that you have to prepare? That's what I did for the program that I'm in. I just went onto LinkedIn and I typed in, associate solution engineer, and I found someone and I reached out to them and they gave me some really, really good resources. And this goes into the third part, which is Trailhead, which I mentioned a little earlier. So Trailhead is a free to use online tool. This is me kind of doing a shameless plug for Salesforce. But Trailhead is a free to use online learning module, where you can go and you can skill and level up. It's kind of a gamification way to learn what Salesforce actually is and what Salesforce does. And the person who I reached out to, they sent me a trail mix, which is kind of like a playlist with all those modules. And I went through every single one of them, and I completed it. I completed them, and that really helped me prepare for the interview, just because I got an understanding of what Salesforce is, what Salesforce does, and completing those modules actually allows you to level up in ranks and get points and whatnot. And that's something that you can actually show off in your resume when you're talking to your recruiter, when you're talking to the hiring manager. You can be like, oh, I have my Trailhead profile in my LinkedIn or on my resume. I've completed all these trails, and it kind of shows that you're eager and you're willing to learn about Salesforce. And another thing that I'd say, kind of going off of Trailhead, is to get certifications as well. You may not need to have the certification for the role that you're going into, but actually going out and getting a Salesforce admin certification, a Salesforce developer certification, also shows that you're really, really invested and you're really interested in joining the company. But even if you don't get a job in the company, there's a huge, like pool of opportunities for Salesforce admin jobs and Salesforce developer roles. And a lot of the times, if you're able to land an admin or developer job at a different company, you might be making even more money than you would in a role within Salesforce, because a lot of companies are using Salesforce. If you just go into LinkedIn and look up Salesforce admin or Salesforce developer in the jobs category, you'll see admin and developer jobs throughout a bunch of different companies. So yeah, those are some of the things that you can do to get your foot in the door with getting into Salesforce.
Thank you so much for sharing, Mohammed. I think that's really insightful. I think those are some very actionable tips that you mentioned. Very curious, because you went through the journey of doing internships, doing different projects. Was there something that you wish you knew before you applied to Salesforce? There's always like an aftermath of having done 100 things and then realize I only had to do these two things, right? Very
Yeah,
curious
yeah.
to know from you, was there some learnings that you had after the whole process that, hey, I could have skipped the line if I just did these two things?
Um, Trying to think. Honestly, I actually wouldn't say that there's really anything. I feel like all of the things that I got uh, really helped me because once I got into the role, I realized I completed a lot of things that I needed in order to graduate from the program that I'm in right now. So for that one, I'd say not much. I feel like I kind of did the fast track to get in.
That's great. No, I appreciate you sharing. I think, yeah, it's definitely good to have different experiences that help shape that, right? So, you could have obviously at the end of being with Amazon, doing doing the internship at Starbucks, you sure were looking at multiple opportunities. Very curious to know, now since you almost spent a year at Salesforce, is there something that makes Salesforce, different, makes it an exciting opportunity? Why would you say that others should also consider Salesforce, as their go-to place? And also for those who are watching, if you're enjoying the session, give us some hashtag Salesforce, in the chat as well. Show Mohammed some love. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you. What makes Salesforce sort of stand out as an opportunity?
I'd say for what makes Salesforce stand out is the investment that they put into their employees, whether that's for both, in the role that you're in, but then also outside of the role. So the investment that they give inside of the role is through mentorship. Immediately when you join at Salesforce, they give you someone that's called a I forgot what the word is. We like to use a lot of like nature and mountainous kind of terms at Salesforce. I think it's like patrol guide or trail guide. Really, what they are is just a mentor. So there's someone who is in your role, but not necessarily within your team. They might be in your greater team. And my mentor Sam, Sam, if you're watching this, shout out to you. Super super amazing guy. Super super helpful, really helped me get a better understanding of what it is a technical architect or a solution engineer does within the day to day, even after I got hired. Because of course, when you get into the role, you may not have a entire understanding of what you actually do day to day until a few months or uh, maybe even into a year within the role. But that's something that's super super helpful, and I love that Salesforce is able to provide for me, right out of the gate. Another thing with an investment into career growth is giving you the opportunity to learn more and more about Salesforce and even technologies that are outside of Salesforce that may be included into your role. So like for me, I work a lot with AWS, Microsoft Azure, so many different technologies. And if I want to go out and get more training on them, if I want to take some classes on them, if I want to get certified within them, Salesforce will go out and pay for that as well. So huge investment for in the job training, but then also really big investment outside of the job. So there's a lot of things like donation matching. I think it's like if you donate $5,000 to a nonprofit of your choice, nonprofit organization, religious organization, Salesforce will go out and match that. They also do something called volunteer time off. So, you have your paid time off, you have your sick leave, vacation. We actually have something called volunteer time off, VTO. And that's 57 hours where you can go out and you can volunteer for an organization or a cause that you like, and Salesforce will pay for that. And they even keep track of how many hours that you have, and if you hit the 57 hours, and they give you awards. So they really incentivize you to go out and help your community. You can also go out and do Salesforce admin or developer work for nonprofits. And all of this is a part of the 1-1-1 model that Salesforce have, giving 1% of our revenue back 1% of our time, and I forgot what the other 1% was, but investing a lot in the nonprofit community. Salesforce is really, really passionate about doing that, and a lot of employees are too. I've been at other companies where you'll have like the donation matches and whatnot, and volunteer time, but really I haven't seen as many people do it at a company like I have at Salesforce. And it's not a lot of the companies, they might just talk the talk but not actually walk the walk. Salesforce definitely does both. They talk the talk and they also walk the walk as well. So yeah, that's what makes Salesforce super unique and different, and why I love it so much as a company.
That's so wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's so good to have, yeah, be a part of an organization that's also giving back actively and recognizes you for that, right? So, thank you so much for sharing. Now, opening it up to questions. If you're watching and you'd love to ask some questions, know more about Salesforce or Muhammad's journey, do drop a question in the chat with hashtag question. One question that we have here is the first one is from Janet. So it says, what is the most rewarding part of your job or your role presently with Salesforce, Mohammed?
Yeah, I'd say the most rewarding part for me is getting a positive response from a customer. Because like I said, I'm in a customer facing role, and one of the things that we got to do is work and solution with customers, to solve their problems. So, when you go through that rigorous process of solutioning out something for a customer and being able to hear comments like, "Oh my God, this is going to reduce so much stress off my plate. I'll finally be able to, step away from the office and, maybe spend time with my family and whatnot." Being able to hear comments like that and just overall making customers' days is probably the most rewarding part of the job.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's wonderful how you're so yeah, passionate about the product and the service you provide, that it brings you so much joy to yeah, help others. And yeah, moving to the next question we have is from Caitlin, I believe. Caitlin. And her question is, what Trailblazer module did you find most valuable when you were going through the different modules?
Um, for me, the one I found most valuable was, I think, just the general admin certification prep. I don't remember what the name is off the top of my head, but if you go to trailhead.com, trailhead.salesforce.com, under the certifications, it's the one for the admin, uh, the admin certification. And the reason why that was so valuable to me was because it gave me the foundations of understanding what Salesforce is and the power that the Salesforce platform has. So being able to actually, use it hands-on and follow all of the modules that I had within Trailhead, to understand Salesforce, like, that was at the foundation of what I do. It was kind of like, uh, the building blocks to where I am today. So for me, that was the most valuable.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. I think that was very, definitely very insightful, and a great starting point for a lot of people that are looking to, do their first probable module. Another question that I had for you, Mohammed, is, you mentioning that, with it being all remote, there's always hard to prioritize tasks and realize what's the first thing that you should work on. So, for others that are looking to, be in a similar role, or are in a similar role, any advice for them of, or any tips of what might be a good way to decide what tasks to do first or how to prioritize?
Hmm. Yeah, so for me, it's always just knowing what I have to do at what time. So definitely time management is something that I use a lot to help prioritize tasks. Like, you know, I like to keep a balance of both work and life. So if I'm feeling really stressed for that day, and if I'm feeling really stressed for that day, I'll prioritize, my mental health, my mental well-being, um, over getting some work done. Of course, I'm not going to, block off like 4 hours just to like step away from the office or anything like that. But if I want to have, 10, 15 minutes to just go outside for a walk or something like that, I'll go ahead and put that on my calendar so that no one pings me for like, "Oh, can we have a quick sync," or something like that. I'll just put 10 or 15 minutes on my calendar, and to let my colleagues know that, like, hey, just reach out to me after this. I'll be back. Just going to step away for a second. I think that's something that people should go out and put when they prioritize. Because of course, you can go out and prioritize, like, you need to get this task done for work, this task done for work, but we don't prioritize our mental health or mental well-being, especially during the tough times that we're in. Otherwise, journaling, writing down in a journal, like, some of the things that I want to get done, a mix of both things related to work as well as outside of work. I've also used this one Google Chrome extension as well to really help me prioritize tasks. I don't know why I'm forgetting what the name is of it, but I have it on my work laptop and on my personal laptop. So when I write down in my journal the tasks that I have done, the Google Chrome extension kind of acts like that, but digitally as well. So I'll write them in my journal, but then I'll also have them in the Chrome tab, so that I know every time I open up a new tab in Chrome, I can see what tasks I have. So just kind of having all of these sort of reminders of what I need to get done for the day really helps me with the tasks that I needed to prioritize and get done.
That's great. That's really interesting with the different sort of suggestions you had about managing time and, using different ways to have, a backup way of remembering what you're journaling and what tasks you have left for you. So thank you so much for sharing all of this. We're very appreciative of
Of
all of
course.
these wonderful insights. We mentioned a lot of things about Salesforce, your day to days. You spent almost a year. Any particular memory that you have, any positive experience being with Salesforce that really stood out to you? Or it's something that you'll always cherish, being your first year or term at Salesforce?
Yeah. Oh man, that's a hard one.
Too many?
It's a really, really hard one. Um, Honestly, I'd say my first day at Salesforce was the
Mhm.
one that I really, really cherished the most, because that was the beginning of a journey that I can see, lasting probably my entire professional career. It was really the kickstart to doing that. Um, it seems like it was so long ago, but it wasn't super long ago. But with COVID and quarantine and all that kind of stuff, last week feels like a year ago.
So,
um, but yeah, no, I'd say my first day at Salesforce, and it the reason why like I really, really enjoyed it and I cherished it so much was because it was super, super welcoming, and the welcome that they gave to us was just out of the world. You know, I when I joined Amazon, it was kind of like an assembly line. Like, okay, you get here, bring your government issued ID, go in this line. Okay, here's your backpack, here's your laptop. Okay, cool. Here's a box of lunch. I didn't get to meet anyone on my team until the next day, but like with Salesforce on my first day, I got to go there. They welcomed us. They gave us, we got to take pictures with some of our mascots. We got to meet our managers, have lunch with them, all of that kind of stuff. So they really, really welcome you to the company. So that's what really stood out to me, and probably so far has been my favorite memory.
that's great. And that sounds really wonderful, Mohammed. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, definitely the first day is usually like a very memorable day. And especially if it's, you get to take pictures with the mascots and meet your team,
Yeah.
I'm sure it becomes more special as well. So thank you so much for sharing, Mohammed. Definitely, if you had any final advice or any sort of value adds for people that are looking to apply to Salesforce, it's definitely a tough time
hmm
with COVID and the job market. Any final words or thoughts or advice that you may have for people watching?
Yeah, definitely. So what I would recommend is I have a lot of people who reach out to me asking for referrals. Always happy to give out those referrals. But one thing that I would recommend for applying to Salesforce is don't only just ask for a referral, reach out and say, hey, can we jump on a Zoom call or a Google Hangout for 20 minutes? I want to learn a little bit more about what you do, what the role is like, what Salesforce is like, what your journey is, just to kind of build that relationship. Because not only are you asking for a referral, by doing that, you could potentially be creating a mentor for yourself as well. And, one of the things that I really appreciate is being able to be mentored, but then also be a mentor for someone else too. So just try to go, a little bit above and beyond. It's not too much, just an extra line in, a LinkedIn introduction, like, hey, would love to, have a virtual coffee chat or something like that with you, because that can make your referral go a lot further than just by asking, hey, can I get a referral?
So true. Thank you so much, Mohammed, for sharing. And
Yeah,
yeah, this is basically your intro of, we definitely reach out to Mohammed, send him an invite, connect with him. And yeah, Mohammed we're very grateful for you. You're Wonsulting for all your time and all your insights and all your willingness to give back and support underdogs turn into winners. So thank you so much for taking the time today to speak with us, share your insights. And yeah, if you're watching, if you loved the session, do let us know in the comments and even through a post on LinkedIn. Tell us what your key takeaways were or things that you enjoyed as listening to the session. And yeah, thank you so much, Mohammed. And we look forward to having and learning more about you in future sessions as well.
thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Alvin.